we've had, some pretty intense periods with multiple systems affecting land in the western part of the Atlantic Basin, which is usually sort of our busiest time period when we have watches and warnings and aircraft reconnaissance. And then there were some periods of time where we had 5 or even 6 active systems for a short period, which is a pretty intense workload for us, given just you have a sheer number of systems that you have to be responsible for and do forecasts for at the same time. So we're having a busy season. We're certainly not done yet. We're just getting into October. You can still have pretty significant tropical activity in the Atlantic Basin through much of October, and then things usually start to quiet down in November. But sometimes these sort of hyperactive seasons tend to linger into November and even into December. And some years, especially years when the sea surface temperatures are a little warmer than normal, we'll tend to get more of those subtropical type systems that develop up in the subtropics and the mid-latitudes all the way into December.
This lingering season caused in part by La Nina, but back to formation zones. Throughout the summer and even at the beginning of the season, we've mainly been focused for those waves coming off of Africa, but now our focus needs to be shifted a little bit further westward, especially in regards to the tail end of the season, correct?
Right. Yeah. As you get into October, the focus shifts back to the western part of the basin, toward the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, off the Bahamas, southeast coast of the United States. The main development region potential that you think of the sort of storms that form right off the coast of Africa near the Cabo Verde Islands, that typically shuts down as you get into late September. The upper level winds get too strong out there. So we'll still get tropical waves, but they'll come across and they won't really do much until we get into the Caribbean. And that's sort of your archetypical major hurricane, or impactful hurricane genesis areas, that sort of northwestern Caribbean. The water's very warm there. You have these cold fronts come down. They can interact with tropical waves or spawn these incipient disturbances, and then you can get your Wilmas and your Michaels. And they're, unfortunately, at that time of year, the typical track for those systems in the northwestern Caribbean is to lift northward and then northeastwards towards Florida, toward the Gulf Coast, near the southeastern United States. So those can be sort of those shorter fuse, very impactful storms that we can still get this time of year.
You mentioned Wilma, the most intense hurricane recorded in the Atlantic Basin. That formed in late October 2005. I mentioned this because a lot of comparisons have been made back to 2005 and this current season back in 2020.
Yeah, every season is different. I mean, they're similar in the fact that we've gone into the Greek alphabet. We've had a lot of systems, but we haven't had as many major hurricanes this year as we had in 2005. So we've had a lot of systems that sort of just got over the line and became tropical storms, but sort of struggled or were relatively short-lived. 2005 was, maybe a little more on the higher end, more active. We had Katrina, Rita, Wilma. We had, major hurricane landfalls. I think I'd have to go back and look, but you had, things like Dennis. So you had just a lot of systems. Yeah. I mean, one aspect of the year that's been similar is that in 2005 we had a lot of systems form in the western part of the basin and impact land, and that's certainly the case this year.
But those comparisons kind of fall apart when you look at accumulated cyclone energy, as that metric really does show just how different those seasons are.
Right, and accumulated cyclone energy sort of combines the strength and duration of the storms, and sort of is a metric that looks at that, not just how many storms have formed, but how long did they live and how strong were they, and the stronger they get, the ACE really ramps up. But the other thing that, ACE doesn't tell the whole story, because you can have shorter lived systems, and if they become, major hurricanes right before they make landfall or right before they affect people, then people are going to perceive it as a busy season. In the United States, this has been an incredibly busy hurricane season. Even though the ACE value for the basin as a whole is only about 25% above average, for the season so far through September. But people really care about what happens sort of where their feet are on the ground. And the other thing that's pretty remarkable this year is we've had tropical cyclone wind or storm surge watches and warnings for every part of the coast, pretty much from Texas to Maine this year, along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts, also for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. So everybody in some way, shape, or form has, along the entire coastline, has seen at least some impacts from a tropical cyclone this year, and that's pretty remarkable.